Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Racers Driving League for Season 19, Round 15 of the Championship. Welcome to... My thing keeps muting and unmuting itself, and it's kind of confusing me, but... Okay, we are up and running now. Okay, right, so apologies for that. Here we are, and back here, let's welcome to Templar Speed Monza for Season 19, Round 15 of the season of the Racers Driving League. And looking forward to what should be a fantastic encounter as always. For some reason, my stream deck was playing up, so apologies on that. But we are now set to go, and looking forward to what should be an exciting qualifying session around there. I apologise to Obsessed for giving him a heart attack, so he tells me in the Discord. But as we wait for the first few cars to get out on track here, we are waiting on two at the minute. We're waiting on Imri, and we're waiting on Ben W. Ben W, not too sure the whereabouts, but Imri, I believe he's updating his game, so hopefully he'll be joining us midway through qualifying. It depends how quickly his game updates. But his teammate, 10th Cannon, is getting out on the circuit, it seems. First Red Bull car out onto the racetrack. The first of the two Red Bulls, the only Red Bull at the minute. But hopefully should be a very exciting encounter. Of course, last season, the Italian Grand Prix wasn't a fantastic race overall in the way of entertainment. And overall, it wasn't a day to remember in terms of, at least for the majority of the field. 10th Cannon dominated, not 10th Cannon, Grumio, sorry, dominated proceedings over the course of what was a 100% race last season. But I think this season, potentially, we could be on course, a bit more dominance, but if not for a bit less of it, obviously half length compared to what it was in the previous season. But it should be, as I say, a very exciting encounter. 11 turns around Monza, of course, ending with the famous Parabolica in the final sector. 10th Cannon then heading up onto her first flying run. We've got a few more cars on the circuit as it stands right now. So one of the Saubers in there, that's Ericsson, and we've also got one of the Alpines. And one of the Alpines, we've actually got a new driver in the Alpine before I forget. So we have DJ in the Alpine, making his full-time debut in replacement for Cott, who departed the league over the course of the last week between this Grand Prix and the last one in the Netherlands. So, of course, looking forward to seeing what the new driver can do. Hopefully should be an exciting addition to the lineup. Of course, we've seen a number of fantastic additions in recent seasons. Some who are still here, some that aren't here at this point. But it should be exciting and interesting to see how he gets on and see if he can kick off his RDL career with a bang. We'll head back to 10th, though, who's coming around to Parabolica now to begin her first flying lap. Of course, one of what's known as Templar Speed is Monza, and it's no secret as to why. There are plenty of long straights. Of course, formerly a much longer circuit with the addition of the high banks of the oval at the other half of the lap. But into turn one now, of course, a very tight chicane in the first two corners. 10th gets away from there nice and easy. And over towards turn 3, Curva Grande, the famous sweeping right-hander heading down towards Della Roggia. That's turns 4 and 5 in a matter of moments, because the end of the first sector is coming up now for 10th. This is 26.2 to start things off into turns 4 and 5. With a lock-up on the way through. Hear the squealing of those front two tyres. It gets away nice and clean towards turn 6. The two Lesmos now on the circuit. So two right-handers, of course, heading into that second DRS zone on the run down towards Ascari. Again, takes those nice and smooth. No real concerns for 10th on this first lap. Plenty of battery still to be used. Of course, battery could be crucial over the course of this Grand Prix. Of course, speed essential as you head down towards the third sector now. 52.8 for 10th as you head into Ascari. Keeping the car, again, nice and controlled here. And that long straight going down towards Parabolica, the final corner on the circuit. Of course, slightly tight entry, but obviously frees out a lot more on corner exit. Into the last part of the racetrack here, off the final corner and looking to complete that first lap. First time on the board for 10th, then it will come down as a 1 minute 19.6 for the Red Bull driver. So a solid start, and we'll see where everyone else emerges. I see one of the Mercedes out on the circuit. That's Poe coming through to start his first flying run. As he leaves the last corner, we'll keep an eye on him over the course of this session. The course has been fantastic in the last couple of rounds. So Pitt sits in P5 in the Drivers' Championship. Of course, last week's winner, Che, who came through to take his first victory in almost a full season. As DJ goes fastest there, 1 minute 19.206, 4 tenths up on 10th Cannon. So we'll see whereabouts the leaders stack up in comparison to the new rookie. Che into turn number 7 now. Dan fastest, 1 minute 18.2. That's a big gain there for Dan, of course, chasing Grumio still in the championship with the gap there, 107 points going into today. So Grumio, I think at this stage, it's looking like a near formality. He's going to win the championship over the course of the next 9 rounds, unless somebody has got what it takes to stop him. But Che, though, obviously finally notching up that first victory of the campaign. So he had a few close calls, but got it done last time out in Zandvoort off that late collision between Dan and Grumio going into turn 1. Of course, Che took the lead from Grumio. Dan made the collision behind. Penalty points were administered, but Che goes into second place. They won 18.555 and 18 third. DJ now down fourth, just ahead of PJ. Then it's 10th Karen Eriksson coming through. 10th setting another lap there. Invalidated that one, so I think going again this time around. Grumio is out on the circuit as well. It's validating his first run there. He heads into Parabolica, then we'll keep an eye on Grumio. Of course, was one of the big stories from last week's race. Of course, that disqualification mid Q2 for blocking the pit lane entry. And of course, that had him starting down in the 15th position. He came back to finish in the top 3 come the end of the Grand Prix. And there's Landlord, of course, has been in contention in recent weeks. He's definitely come alive the last few rounds since that near win in Belgium. He's definitely had a lot more going for him in recent races. Currently sits in 4th place in the Drivers' Championship, 15 points off of Che. Of course, the big chase has been to try and catch Che in 3rd place for a number of drivers as Landlord comes through, winning 18.6 on the board for the former champion. Of course, the only driver to have won an RDL Championship for the Prancing Horse, to have won it for Ferrari back in the day. And of course, looking to add a victory at Monza to his tally. But as I say, of course, until last week, the chase was on for everyone. Got closing down on Che. Look at Landlord, Pope, Imri. You could have argued AT at one stage was up there with a shout. But at this point, thanks to that victory, Che has pulled away a bit. So his spot in 3rd place is under a bit less jeopardy this week. I think short for retirement or a no score. It'd then take one of those guys finishing on the podium to actually manage to top that. Pope backing off there. Didn't get his first lap going quite what might have wanted it to. Invalidated there as we've got the random just left the session there. But Pope, the only car who hasn't set a lap, was on a flyer. There goes Ben though. Ben Lim in the RB. So RB then still at the foot of the table in the Constructors' Championship. Currently as it stands, 13 points back from Ferrari in P9. Those guys are more focused on chasing down Aston Martin, just 6 points in front of them in 8th place. But RB, of course, been at the foot of the table the majority of the season. It's been a tough going for that outfit as a whole, of course, the combination of Ben and Alvar. Alvar came close to some points on the board last week. So that number of close to scores. No Ferraris actually in the race today, so a big chance for RB to make some gains. Should they try and get a point or two on the board tonight? I have to keep an eye out for those guys. But short of both Imri and Ben W joining us midway through Q1, likely we're looking at just the one elimination here. So for a lot of these drivers, it'll be another glorified practice session. There's JB lining up there behind his teammate. Of course, Grumio himself also yet to set a lap time, but JB might be getting a toe off his champion teammate on the run down towards that first corner. Have to wait and see what they've got up their sleeves. As Ben W now joins the session, so we're losing 2 drivers then coming into this session. JB, we're hoping it's not him. They race down towards turn 1, and definitely time to be gained there between those two with the toe in play for them. The 2 Haas cars 1-2 as it stands. Of course, no Imri in the picture at the minute as well, so likely be one of those guys fighting for pole with Grumio. We'll see in terms of what sort of lap times these guys put in as Grumio leads JB through turn 3. 26.3 end of the first sector. Grumio backs off, lets JB go through. Oh, JB's invalidated there, and you know what, that may not have worked out too well for Williams as JB gets the lap time deleted there for I'm assuming exceeding track limits. And a tough break for Williams there. Of course, the game plan was solid and there in place. And Grumio moved out of the way for JB to convert, and that wasn't the case, so that also brings an end to Grumio's lap as well. Of course, plenty of time still, 8 minutes to go, plenty of time to go for a second run. Both cars will charge up again, obviously on slightly more worn tyres than they might like for a qualifying run. The tyres aren't particularly fresh at this point, but are up to temperature, so that won't be a concern there. The yellow flag being caused by these two as they sort of reshuffle themselves into order as they were a lap ago. And we'll see if we get a second chance, perhaps a second bite of the cherry as they round Parabolica for the second time in this same formation. And we'll see if the game plan is any different this time, or if it's just solid for both of them on the run down towards turn 1. JB not really gaining much as it stands in a minute. But Grumio actually did set a time truthfully, a 1:28.2, but obviously slowest so far. It'd be a shock to see Grumio eliminated in Q1. Something that I don't believe I've actually ever seen that on raw pace. I think I may have definitely seen a Q2 elimination at some stage, but never a Q1. Especially with so few cars in the session. Only 2 cars being eliminated here is Ben W and obviously in the session now reserving in the Ferrari. So things are all nice and clean for those guys this time round as they enter turn number 7. Grumio still leading the train this time, not backing off for JB just yet. I think both cars now want to get times on the board. And JB's lap still valid as well. And Grumio getting a lot more time there. Oh, JB over the curb there at Ascari. Kept the lap valid, but when that may cost him a bit, 52.6 is second sector. He enters the last corner here once again. We'll see how much Grumio improves by. You saw Ethan move up to 6th place there, one at 19.2. Grumio 118.9. JB 119.7. So you saw how much that sort of mistake can cost you at a circuit like Monza. And JB now finds himself in the bottom 2 times, which could be pivotal coming into the session. You see Pope there going 3rd fastest, gets a lap on the board at last. 118.6 and really up there against the 2 Haas cars. Che now retiring. Both Haas cars and Landon have called it quits in this session. DJ, of course, the debutant, still their best of the rest as it stands right now. But, of course, Ben Lim, Cotney and Ben W all yet set times. Ben Lim's out in the circuit. And we'll see what sort of time he puts in as he comes down to end the second sector. I think we're perhaps looking at 53 here, maybe. 52.9, so very close to 53. But Ben around in that last corner now. And into the pit lane, those called it quits. And that is a worry for RB because, of course, Alvar is currently the last car going through based on cars that's at lap time. So he may need to come back out and try and find some sort of improvement. Tenth Cannon back on the circuit, P11 for 10th right now. 1:19.633, of course, the first time she set, the first time that got set in this session. Heading into turns 4 and 5. So she'll be looking for a bit more time, I should think. Of course, as I say, with a number of good cars out of the picture at the minute. Of course, will likely at this stage come across teammate Imri in the Grand Prix, as Imri, as it stands, will look to be starting last, I should be thinking. Be very landlord-esque, and we'll see how he gets on progressing up through the order. So 4 minutes to go then in this first qualifying session. Still waiting on 3 cars at lap times. Ben Lim was out in the circuit, didn't get a time in. Ben W, I believe, has not yet left the pit lane. And Cotney Goblin, though, is out on track. So we'll see what sort of time he can put in the other Mercedes. Of course, yet to score the entirety of this campaign here. It's been a tough campaign for Cotney Goblin. He hasn't been able to register a championship point as of yet. Same with Ericsson. But of course, both have come close on occasion. And with the league being as competitive as it is. Of course, for Ericsson's case, Sauber running in 7th place in the Constructors. As it stands, only 13 points back from Alpine. But of course, without a fresh face in Alpine, is there a chase to sort of maintain P6 for that team? Or can Sauber try and snatch it? Of course, HB Cook not with us either tonight. So a number of cars not in the race this evening. As Cotney Goblin comes through to the line. Be a 1:19.9, which, as it stands, should everyone set a lap time when they go faster than everyone else, that'll see JB still going through. Not by much, but he's going through at the minute. I mean, technically, all of them are going through. We'd need both Bens to put times up to get a real sense as to what the case is. Yellow flag, the RB lets 10th Cannon go through. She heads towards Parabolica. We'll see if there's any sort of improvement on her previous effort. Websy now retiring, because Websy there in P10. Actually being outdone by his teammate by 3/10. 119.473, up by a tenth and a half. Maintaining P10, Pope retiring now to all the top 5, now called it quits. And this is to go with the concern of the minute. 10th Cannon finds the grass there to move out the way. The first Lesmo keeping the car under wraps. Room 7 now. There's only obviously a few more corners to come, but halfway through the lap here. And there's still every chance that Ben can put himself up in that top 15. 52.7, which is, I think it was faster than what we saw from him earlier on. Faster by about 2/10 or so. So he runs down towards Parabolica rather. Minute 20 here, so we're looking here at last laps. No one's emerging from the pit, so I should imagine everyone's on the circuit now will get one last chance to come around and set a lap time. Ericsson into the pit lane there, currently P12. Ben Lem towards the line. It's a 1 minute 19.3. Puts him into 10th place. JB is on the brink now. He's the last car going through as 10th Cannon also retires. Ben W now on the circuit. So up to Ben W now to see if JB does indeed get knocked out. He's the car on the line. But JB himself looking to improve. Could we see another lap in place? And will Grumio, his teammate, give him that assistance to try and push him higher up the order? We'll have to wait and see. Yes, Grumio's backing off, thinks to wait for his teammate. So having that teammate is a big help for both cars in a minute. Beneficial for both drivers. Ben, though, in the lone Ferrari, is going to have it all against him. He runs wide there. Lap time not deleted, so he keeps on. 10 more seconds. So these will be last laps. And the question now is, who makes it into Q2? JB, truthfully, only needs to go about another 10th or so to actually go through if Ben goes faster. Ben went at 20.3, and that will mean that JB's safe. So everyone is going through as is. No concerns there. So Dan is fastest in this session, followed by Che in second place, Pope in third, Landlord fourth, AT fifth, Grumio sixth, DJ in seventh, Ethan eighth, PJ ninth, and Ben rounds at your top 10. 10th Cannon P11, that's Websy, Alvar, Ericsson, and JB going through. We lose Courtney Goblin and Ben W at the end of this session. So that is Q1 then in the bag. As Alvar comes back to the pit lane to end the session off. Tough break then for Ben W and for Courtney Goblin. Both cars find themselves out. Ben W will likely find himself in the back row alongside Imri should he get into the racing time. And that is all for the moment then. We'll take a moment. I'll be back with you shortly when Q2 gets underway. Welcome back then to Q2 here in RDL qualifying, getting set for the Italian Grand Prix round 15 of the season. Of course, we lost 2 drivers there. In the end, we lost Connolly Goblin and Ericsson. Sorry, we lost Ben W, come the end of the session. And we're looking now at the 15 remaining drivers who have their chance to fight it out for a place in Q3 in about 15 minutes' time. Of course, qualifying should get to be a bit more tense now, as obviously 5 places to be dropped come the end of the session. And it could be anyone's game as there's a whole train coming onto the racetrack this time, as opposed to last time around at the start of Q1. Of course, it was quite a tentative entry to the circuit for a number of drivers. Of course, we saw 10th come out first. This time, as we've often seen in the past, it is Daniel Aaron leading them around as they come through turns 6 and 7. And we'll see then what these guys have in store for us this time around. Running on board then with Dan. We'll look to him as he goes for his first lap of Q2. We'll see in terms of what sort of pace we see by comparison. Obviously, a few of these guys who almost locks for Q2. We'll have to see if they pick things up this time around. But Dan comes through to start his first lap of the session here on the run down towards that first corner. It's a long run to turn 1. It's very easy to use up a lot of the ERS early on in the lap. Big lock up there from Dan, who keeps the car under control. Heads through turn 3, keeping the car under wraps himself this time around. We'll see if it's the same sort of case going down towards 4. Again, you see here another lock-up. Not a ton of smoke there, but a lock-up nonetheless. Into the first last smoke. One of the RBs there in front, so we have to be careful of that. I believe that's Alvar, as Ben is in that initial queue. DRS in play for the run down towards Ascari now. You see Pope there on Dan's tail as they head up towards Ascari. Pope trying to get a toe there off of the slow RB on the left side of the circuit, which has worked to its effect. And we'll see if Pope has gained any time on Dan, as both head towards Parabolica. Into the final corner now to cap off this first lap of Q2. And again, we'll get a comparison between the pair of them. Dan 118.7, Pope 119.3. So Dan 6/10 up. Grumio to second place. Now that's the Grumio we're seeing as Che trumps everyone there. 118.6 on this initial barrage of lap times. Webbs into P5, PJ to P6, Ericsson P7. And there's Alvar starting his lap. Alvar on the medium tyre there. JB obviously letting a few cars go here, and the Aston Martin of Ethan through. Of course, Ethan and PJ have been rather evenly matched in terms of qualifying lap times this season. So we'll see whereabouts Ethan emerges compared to his teammate. It's, again, around the same thing, 119.5. Do you know what? I'd be very interested to see the head-to-head between those two. Of course, Ethan leads them in points as it stands right now. 28 to PJ's 13 as a whole. Obviously, 41 points for Aston this season. As I made mention last week in Zandvoort, I felt like the points distribution compared to previous seasons isn't as even as it has been in the past. You obviously see a number of drivers with quite high totals. In terms of the top, from 10th down to dead last, of course, Ericsson and DJ haven't been here for the entirety of the season. But in terms, for everyone from P10 down has scored less than a race win's worth of points in this first 14 rounds of the season. So it's definitely been a bit more fruitless for a number of drivers over the course of the campaign. You sort of see a lot of the same sort of cars scoring each week. That pack of cars that have obviously been the fastest gets bigger and bigger as it sort of ends off with AT and HB Cook. Those guys are sort of always contending for the lower points places or the mid points places on their day. But typically, it's that top 6 that are always sort of thereabouts. And you look at the championship. I mean, Grumio, 286 points. He's near 300 for the season. I believe maybe whether he's on course to perhaps break a points record in terms of most in a season. Obviously, Dan in second place, Che in third, Landlord, Pope, Imrie. Of course, that top 6 have always been the ones sort of contending for the victories this season. It's been a train of those guys. And obviously, they all have their off days at certain stages. Obviously, almost everyone's come through a set lap time here. Only missing AT and Ben Lim. But Che is fastest. And Alvar, as it stands on those medium tyres, is currently the last car above the cut, with Ericsson, DJ, and 10th Cannon unable to get past in terms of lap time, despite being on that softer tyre. AT, Ben, same thing. We'll see what they've got lined up in their sleeves this time around. It should be very interesting indeed. That Landlord there, P5. JB there, P8, of course, was under a lot more pressure in Q1. It seems as though he's relieved himself of some of that pressure in Q2 so far, 119.5. So still currently on sort of teetering on the edge, but a bit more secure than, say, a PJ or an Alvar, P9, P10 right now. Of course, Alvar, the last car going through. I should imagine we'll see Alvar improve his time once he bolts on some soft tyres. So we'll have to wait and see what he's got up his sleeve. And AT there and Ben Lim now both in their laps. We'll see what they've got lined up for us. Keep an eye on both cars as they make their way through the second sector. Of course, McLaren, they're in third place. I'd say Red Bull sort of lost out on that chase due to Imrie being their main point scorer, whether it's Matthew or 10th in the other seat. But McLaren obviously take full advantage of that with both Landlord and AT scoring solid points. They're 4th and 7th in the standings in the Drivers' Championship, of course, P3 in the Constructors. They're within 100 points of Haas at the top of the table. As AT comes through, he's invalidated his lap, but Ben's is still valid, so we'll keep an eye on Ben. But yeah, 98 points the gap from the leaders to McLaren in third place. I think they're focused. They can try and look to catch Williams, which could be a big ask, but given that they got 2 cars scoring, it could work for them, as Ben goes 12th fastest there, 119.919. Only 1s and 9s in there. And I'm being told now that we are, unfortunately, Imrie will not be able to join us tonight as his update has not finished. So, I mean, just the lone Red Bull in the race tonight. I think it will be gutting for him, but we'll see in terms of who will pick up pole position instead. Of course, Imrie has been the dominant force in qualifying this season. 6 poles, that's double what anyone else has done. Of course, should Che get a 4th pole today, then that will change. But still, Imrie has been on it in qualifying this season. Oh, his Pope almost falls afoul of the RB there of Alvar. Blink was backing off to let him go, moving over to the right hand side of the racetrack, trying to get off the racing line, but came very close to contact. Be careful in terms of when you're moving out of the way, especially at a circuit like this where the line changes so much, corner to corner. But Pope, though, is still undeterred. He's there, 4th place right now, over the curb a bit at turn 7, past the Williams. And DRS in play as he sets off down towards Ascari. I think Pope with the prospect of Imrie not in contention. Oh! Pope's backed off. Pope has backed off. He's invalidated his lap. Okay, for a second I was wondering why he wasn't appearing, but there we go. So the Season 11 champion, I think, will be looking in prospect, an opportunity to try and move Mercedes into 4th place in the Constructors' Championship. So it's been just his points and the points scored by Aussie in the early rounds of the season, of course, before Aussie's departure mid-campaign. JB there still in P8. He's got a tow from his teammate this time. Grumio in P4. Websy in 3rd place there. So keep an eye on that Alpine, who could be a dark horse in this race today, should he keep up that pace. But we'll see here this tactic can work out in favour of Williams this time around as they make their way down towards turns 4 and 5. Grumio backing off. JB is gaining 3/10 there. Big gains for JB then in the first sector. And that will put him sort of around P5 for P6, possibly P5 with any further improvements. But of course, Grumio will look to try and move towards the top of the times. He's a 10th up right now. I think likely won't take P1 on the times. So sort of Sacrifice is running, luckily is safe in Q3. But he's giving a hand to his teammate there, who's P9 right now. JB still improving, 4/10 up now. I think looking at P6, looking to go faster than Pope, perhaps. But needs to keep the car under control here for the rest of the lap. And Grumio, I believe, is charging up. Nope, he's. I'm actually maybe pitting this time. I would have thought he'd be charging the battery back up to go for another lap. But JB, last corner here. The lap is valid. We'll see where actually puts himself. All the battery in use towards the line. 4th place for JB. He's actually gone faster than Grumio. There we go. And Pope, as I say that, trumps the lot. 1:18.532. Pope goes fastest. All of a sudden, the two Aston Martins of the cars looking nervously over their shoulders. Now PJ has slightly tumbled over that edge. He's got his last few fingers on that cliff of elimination. Currently, the first car out. And you saw Alvar on those soft tyres. As I said, who would likely improve on the softer tyre. Landor goes faster still. The time's dropping like flies here mid Q2 as the McLaren driver puts himself on top. His teammate yet to get a lap in, but round the last corner now. We'll see where AT puts himself. Can he get himself into Q3 alongside his teammate? Car behind him, that's the 10th cannon in the Red Bull. ATP P6 is 10th start to the next lap. Waiting there behind AT for a bit of tow, apologies, as Dan retires. But what a change in pace there. And JB and Grumio all of a sudden now down P7, P8, and they were P4, P5 matches moments ago. Things change quickly in the RDL. I think it goes without saying. And all of a sudden, despite that improvement, both Williams cars might be under pressure still. Grumio's in the pit lane here. I mean, he's in at the minute, so there's no reason for panic just yet. Ethan's starting a fresh lap. PJ not improving, 4 thousandths down in the first sector. Ericsson in the pit lane. Ben Lim on the circuit. Same with Ted Cannon. Ted Cannon improving by almost 4/10. Needs a bit more than that, though. She needs about 8/10 or so to get herself into that top 10. Whether those can be gained from this final sector, not too sure, given that the majority of it is flat out. It may come down to how she ran through Ascari and, of course, her run through Parabolica here. As Che retires, I think both Haas cars likely locked into that shootout of pole position. 10th final corner, Landau retiring from P1. 10th into P10, gained a lot of time there, so I'll happily eat my words on that front. JB retiring, obviously, if 4 cars improve as 10th falls back into the bottom 5. Grumio also retiring. I mean, there's not long to go, but I'd say the pressure is still slightly on for those two Williams cars. There's a minute and a half left. As I imagine, likely they're safe, but you never know who could improve. Ethan is improving by almost half a second. PJ coming through to start his next lap. He's currently P14 right now. It needs to be about another 7/10 gain. Sorry, about another 4/10 gain, apologies, for PJ to get through. Ethan into P6. That will knock Ben Lim into the bottom 5. DJ currently at risk. He's on his outlap though, so going for one more run. So things could get interesting here. And you're looking potentially, Grumio's under a bit of pressure. He's run a risk in retiring there when he could try to go for another lap. But of course, I'm going to count on the number of these guys improving, and I wonder if they will. Alvar is retired, so Alvar is out of Q2. The only matter now is to whereabouts he'll start out of the 17 cars on the grid. 10th cannon, final corner. It's likely going to come down to this first to get ourselves into Q3. She needs 3/10 on this lap. She's pitting. Right, there we go. 10th cannon out. So a second driver eliminated. Ben is on the edge, but again pits as well. So Ben also out. So it's down to PJ and Ericsson. If both those cars can get us into the Q3, that will knock Grumio out. It's unlikely, but you never know. PJ towards the line. What does he do? P14. That won't be enough. So PJ likely also out. Ericsson improving by half a second right now. Was that half a second? Yes, it was. So 4.5 tenths. Checking flag is up. Only Ethan and DJ and PJ in lap times. PJ across the line. Nope, sorry. No, PJ is on a lap, apologies. Nope, he's retiring. There we go. It was Ethan who just crossed the line. P6 for Ethan. He goes through to Q3. Fantastic run there for the Aston Martin driver. And Ericsson stays on the circuit. What can he do? Into P11. It was close. And he nearly nearly knocked DJ out. DJ makes an incredible first arrival in Q3 in his first early outing. Fantastic job from the Alpine driver there. Ericsson came close, won't go through. Ben also out, double RB elimination. 10th Cannon also eliminated too. But Landau fastest there by a full 2/10 to Pope. Che in third, Dan fourth, Websy in fifth. It's Ethan, AT, JB, Grumio, and DJ who all go through. Both Alpines, both Williams cars, both McLarens, both Haas machines, one Merc and one Aston await the chance of pole position here in the final parts of qualifying. Coming your way in a moment's time. It should be a fantastic scrap of pole position. And with Imrie not in the picture, not in the Grand Prix tonight, we'll see what he's got up, what these guys have got up their sleeves to try and match his, try and get close to matching his qualifying tally of 6 poles. Will Chair the fourth? We see a new pole, so that's to wait and see. Time now for Q3 to get underway. Time now then for the last part of qualifying here in Monza. 10 drivers left in the qualifying session, and we'll see here in the next 12 minutes who will take pole for the 15th race of the season. It could be a wide open affair. This Monza is all about flat out speed, and we'll see who's got it. So far it's been the Haas drivers, Pope in the Mercedes and Lauda in the McLaren. Those guys have been the ones to beat so far. Of course, Grumio has been assisting JB in terms of the run through to Q3, but has made it himself. Of course, came very close to elimination late on in Q2, but has made it into the last part of qualifying, and we'll see here what he's got up his sleeve now. Of course, Grumio has been the dominant force over the course of this season. And just looking at this stage for his 11th win of the season, that's been 4 races that Grumio has not won. That's 2 for Dan, 1 for Pope, and 1 for Che. Of course, Grumio did not compete in Dan's 2 race victory, so Dan yet to beat Grumio outright for a win this year, this campaign on this game. But it's been all Grumio's so far. I'll be very interested to see in terms of what the game plan is when we get further down the line, looking into next year's F1 game. Of course, the removal of ERS management, which I know has been a concern for a number of drivers. Of course, a circuit very ERS heavy, like Monza, of course, where you rely on everything to give you a bit of speed, a bit more. Those few extra miles an hour could prove crucial on who takes pole. As Grumio comes through to start the first lap, right on board with him in the first sector. 25.7 then for Grumio in the first sector. Solid start to the lap here. We'll see what he's got up his sleeve. Find a bit of curb there going through turn 5 as he exits De La Roja and towards the 2 Lesmos now. Now into 7. A lot of speed being carried through there. Still got half his tank left in terms of battery. You see Dan chasing him down towards Ascari. Grumio though in control here as he heads down towards the Parabolica. Dan chasing him. We'll see what the gap looks like. This is the first time Grumio's had things all to himself in terms of 1 lap. Round to the last corner towards the line. And Grumio is on it. 1:17.6. And that is an ominous sign to Dan, who comes through half a second later. I'm at 18.2 on the board for Dan. Ethan 1:19.6. Of course, Aston into Q3. Che into second place. Bridges that gap slightly, but not enough. A 117 on the board there. We'll see what Landlord and Pope and Websy have lined up. Websy around the last corner now. And he's trying to turn a page in Alpine's ambitions. P4, 118.8. Landlord towards the line, 117.9. So at least one of the cars on it. 80. The first time I've seen that. Both McLarens running opposite liveries here. Dan on the silver one and 80 on the standard livery. So there we go. There's an odd one. But Che now third, Dan fourth, AT fifth, and it's Websy, Ethan, DJ, of course, first Q3 for Minardiel. Pope rounds the last corner. We'll see where he pits himself. Can he put himself in the 17s too? He can't. 118.9. Not quite there for Pope from that first run. JB in the pit lane here. So everyone has set a lap minus JB. Grumio pitting. And that is a solid effort from the champion. Of course, in pursuit of that 10th championship, over 100 points to the good in the standings, but still going for it, looking for that 11th win of the season. Lalo and AT working in tandem, I think, here for this next lap. We could see him go for another run. Grumio himself has 3 poles, along with Che. Those guys have the second most this season. Both cars heading in then. And Pope not improving here. So halfway through Q3 then, pretty much. There'll be time likely for one more run for everyone as you see a car into the circuit. That will be Grumio come back out. And JB joining him. Right, here we go then. So, JB going for his lap. Of course, got himself into Q3. And we'll see if he can put himself firmly inside that top 10. Of course, was up there in Q2 at one stage. And it looks as though Grumio once again can give his teammate a hand. Of course, we saw this for a fair bit of time with Grumio, Landlord, and AT last season. It was this sort of toe deal in qualifying, which obviously looked very confusing from the outside to have 2 RB teammates helping, I believe, one of the Aston Martins at the time. But we'll see here what these two have lined up on their sleeves. No one else on the circuit right now, so all focus is on these 2 Williams cars. I think everyone else will give it a few minutes before they're going out for what will be their final runs of qualifying. So we'll see then, as Grumio backs up to his teammate. No one else on circuit, so what's the game plan? It's to be the same thing for Williams once again. It's not broken, so they won't try and fix it. Heading down towards turn 1. No sign of life in the pit lane right now. So we'll keep all focus on these 2. Out of turn 2 and towards Clever Grande. We'll see what sort of time JB can put in. 25.8. JB locks up a bit there in turn 4. But this could be a very good lap. DJ on the circuit, the 3rd car on the racetrack of the 10. And JB there, 52.2. That's a good second sector from JB. And heading down towards Parabolica. I'm not entirely sure this lap will rank, but I think we're likely to be seeing something up towards the top end of the order as we head into Parabolica. And what can JB do? Up towards the line. It's going to be a 1:18.7 for P6 on the board. So a solid top 10 starting place right now for JB. Put him a lot closer to those front runners than we normally see. Ethan and DJ both on the circuit. $1:19.6 for both cars. Both of them off pace from their first runs. 3 minutes to go. So it won't be long now till we start seeing it. There we go. We see one of the Astons, one of the Mercs emerging. There is Pope. DJ starts what could be his last proper run. Wide there through turn 2. Any signs of life from elsewhere? No, not for the minute. Not just yet. But 2.5 minutes. Still a bit of time. As Ethan comes through to start what could be his final lap. Of course, one of the Astons in Q3 once again. 17 points back from Sauber coming into today. And looking. JB retiring. DJ invalidating there through Ascari. Okay, right. So, yeah, still again, he's got 2 minutes. Just under 2 minutes, rather. Go through turn 7 with Ethan. Majority of cars heading out. Both Haas cars on the circuit. No signs of life from the Williams or rather, I was going to say from the McLaren pit lane, but there is Landlord, an AT on the track with him too. So here we go then. Last runs well and truly underway. Grumio emerging now, nick of time. So I'll get around in time. Only car in the pit lane now is DJ, who is just called it quits. End of his run, end of qualifying. P10 for him. Where will Ethan emerge? Up to P7 there, just behind JB in the order. DJ retires. That's 8 cars left fighting. I imagine Ethan's done most likely. Pope towards turn 1. Start of his last lap. And you heard the squash on a big run over both curves there at turn 1 and 2. Very aggressive start to the lap from Pope. We'll see if it pays off for him. The top 5 all coming through on their out laps now. Both chained down, about to hit the line. Start their final laps. Pope improving by 0.2. Needs more than that. It was a tough first lap for Pope. We'll see if he can recover it. Yellow flag as both one of the McLarens backing off. As Landlord there, P2. Both McLarens waiting here for their chance. As 80th thought for a second was going to weave across and cut into the way of Grumio, who's got Websy in front of him. Where will Pope improve? If at all, 0.4 up. Checker flag is now up. Everyone's on lap times. The final 8 cars going for it. Pope first through, followed by Ethan. Ethan 6 seconds down. Likely will not be set. It'll be P7 at max for him. Pope towards the line. What can he do? Pope to P3. Good lap there. Big improvements in that last sector. The 2 Haas cars coming through. Both of them are improving bit by bit. Few tenths each. They need about at most around sort of a half second to really challenge Grumio for pole. And last corner for Dan and for Che. What will they do? Dan towards the line, comes through to P4. Che goes to P2. Big improvement, but 7,000ths out. And Grumio is improving. Landlord is invalidated. What's 80 up to? 80 to 10th up. Websy a quarter of a second up. I think likely Grumio's got it here. Che came awfully close. But it looks as though Grumio has come alive in the closing stage of qualifying here on this final lap. Comes through for 1:17.6 in the end. Goes through, and that is Grumio on pole for the Italian Grand Prix. Then his 4th pole of the campaign. Can he add win number 11? That's the main question today. Can he go back-to-back in Monza? That's the question on everyone's lips here. But pole for Grumio by just under a tenth to Che in second place, Landlord in third, Pope in fourth, Dam fifth, and it's AT, Websy, JB, Ethan, and DJ rounding your top 10. And that'll do it then for qualifying. 27 laps on your way here at Monza. And we shall be back in a few minutes' time for the start of the Grand Prix. Welcome back, everybody. We are moments away now from the start of the Italian Grand Prix, round 15 of the Racers Driving League, season 19. It promises to be a fascinating encounter if qualifying was anything at all to go by. I'm your host, Zach RC. If you did miss qualifying, I feel bad for you because we're in for an absolute fantastic race here tonight. We'll have a look at the circuit as we always do. Of course, the Temple of Speed is more affectionately known the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza. Only 11 corners, of course, several famous corners in there. Of course, that very tight first chicane. Della Roja turns forward by the two Lesmos. Ascari at the end of the second sector, start the third sector. And, of course, the run towards the famous Parabolica as shown there on your screen behind the track map. Of course, last season's race won by Grumio, a full 53 laps, just 27 on offer here today. And looking at perhaps a slightly less dominant Grand Prix, Grumio was in front by less than a tenth at the end of qualifying. Hopefully should be reeled in a lot more compared to last season's Grand Prix, and it should be, as I say, a fascinating encounter. No Imri on the grid tonight, unfortunately, as he couldn't update his game in time. Only 17 cars, lost a number of drivers in as reserve tonight, and one debutant in the field. Have a look at your full starting grid then. So it's Ben starting from dead last by himself here on row 9. Medium tyres for the Ferrari driver. Let's look at your starting tyres on the left. 3 hard tyre starters, one of them being Courtney Goblin. Yet to register a point for Mercedes this season, lines up in P16. PJ Caleb P15, tough qualifying for the Aston Martin driver compared to his teammate Ethan in Q3. Alvar lines up P14, medium tyres for one RB, not for the other one though. 10th Cannon, the lone chance at points for Red Bull tonight, lines up 13th place, looking for a strong run after a point score in last week's, I believe my memory serves me right. Ben lines up P12 again, using those, Ben Lim lines up P12, sorry, on the hard tyre compared to his teammate in the other RB. Ericsson P11 came awfully close to a Q3 appearance, couldn't quite manage it. We'll try and get some points on the board again, looking for his first points of the season as well. DJ, of course, debutant this time for Alpine, replacing Cott in the full-time driver order. Lines up on the hard tyre, highest hard tyre starter in the grid. Medium tyre for the top 9 here. Ethan lines up in 9th place. Going to try and add some more points, try and close some points on HB Cook. Not here tonight in the race for P8 in the Constructor in the Drivers' Championship. It's JB P7 got through to Q3 with assistance from his teammate Grumio, who of course went on to take pole. Websy in P7 went third place briefly in Q2. So could have some surprise pace, keeping on the dark horse there in the other Alpine. AT P6 consistent as ever in the top 10. Dan in P5, 107 points back from the pole sitter. Work to be done to try and gain some ground. Look for that third win of the season. Pope in P4, Landlord in P3. Of course, both cars strong in Q2. Not so strong in Q3, but up there and close to Grumio and Che. Those guys in the front row. Che, last week's winner, and Grumio, of course, lined up from P15 last week. Came back to finish on the podium. Looking for a much more routine run to the finish line this time as Ben comes through. The last car to come and take a spot on the starting grid. Green flags there have been waved by the marshals as we get set to go. 27 laps been your way as Ben and Cotney get the last bits of heat into their tyres. Cotney takes his spot on the grid. No one missing their grid slot today. Fantastic stuff to see. Unless jinxing for Ben, no chance. Just waiting now for the lights. Here we go. Here in Monza, round 15 of the season. At the temple of speed, it's Grumio and Che on the front row. Long hold of the lights, but it's now lights out, foot to the floor, and we are underway. Solid start on Grumio there on the left, going towards Timon, but Che comes fighting back. There goes Landlord trying to make a move to the outside of both cars into turn one. Che moves to the outside, Grumio covers underneath, contact in the back. One of the Aston Martins around, that's PJ around before you... And for the second week in a row, there's been contact before we even reached the first corner. PJ recovers it. Cotney Goblin and Ben W may have got pieces of that, but Grumio leads from Che and Landlord top three. Pope in fourth, ATP 5 down the spot. Not a good start for the other Haas driver. Webbsy still P7, JB in P8. So those guys sort of in places rather as we make our way into De La Roja for the first time. Both cars keeping consistent, and DJ on his first racing lap in RDL gets up one place over Ben Lim, who's going side by side with him going towards turn number 6. DJ can't hold it around the outside. Ben Lim takes away takes away P9. DJ back down to 10th. And Ethan down 2 spots there. So despite that Q3, not a fantastic start for either Aston Martin. PJ, a lot of work to do there. I think damage to the car as well. Yep, a lot of damage on that front wing, especially on the right side. But Grumio leads then from Che and Landlord. Top 3, top 4 remaining unchanged since the getaway. It's a solid start from Grumio. Did exactly what he needed to do. Got himself in front, got himself to the inside line as well. Had to defend the inside going towards turn 1, but Che didn't hold much contest there. So as they round Parabolic to complete the first lap. Grumio already underneath on fuel. Whether he underfueled intentionally, not too sure, but he leads the first lap, and Che will be trying to close on him with battery in play for both cars, but not for the minute. Both cars harvesting for now, keeping it medium. Back to turn 1, you see one of the Saubers. There's Ericsson going from the lone Sauber in this race, making a move on Alvar towards turn 1. Alvar outbraking the Sauber driver and wins out on this occasion. Oh, was there contact there? Not entirely sure. Ericsson may have gotten loose a bit as they left turn 2, but Ben W takes full advantage of that in the Ferrari. Moves into 13th place over the Sauber. DJ is there in the back now, so struggling early on this race. Is there damage done on that car already? I'm not too sure. If the end plate missing, yes there is. So early contact for DJ then. Not a fantastic start to this race. Down 5 spots and work to be done for him. PJ 5 seconds back there in dead last. Tough start for Aston Martin as a whole as Ethan hangs on to 1 point, playing place himself back into P10 as a result. Che is closing. DRS in play now for the first time on the run towards Ascari. Keep an eye on Pope, might make a move on Landlord, and Dan might go for AT, into the left-hander of Ascari. Through turn 10 and down towards Parabolic for the second time. It's still Grumio in control here, but of course a lot longer run down the main straight with DRS in play for Che, so keep an eye out. I think I saw a car go off in the back there. Nope, looks all okay. I think DJ might have run wide, but keeps the car rolling, but loses out to Cotney Goblin. So as they round the last corner for the second time, it's still Grumio in control, but Che in hot pursuit, and DRS now in play. Fastest lap for Che as well as they head towards turn 1. Pope making a move on Landlord, close to a run for that third spot, heading towards that first corner. Makes his move to the inside, as does Che for a second, who moves back into line, but Pope going for it here as they enter turns 1 and 2. Landlord half a car length in front on corner exit, and May will hang on to third place. They're still going at it, still side by side. Pope wrestling his way past there through Curva Grande and almost clearing Landlord. Starts side by side Mercedes versus McLaren on the run towards De La Roja. Landlord goes for it, and Pope trying to force him to an error. Some kind, tries the outside contact on the front left and back left and front right tires of those two machines, but Landlord then narrowly holds on to third place, but of course breaks the train as Che is now sitting there by himself behind Grumio. No threat from behind. That'll be crucial for Landlord, who had no DRS and perhaps no response to Pope down this straight on the next one, as DRS will come back into play into the main straight. As Che now moves into the race lead in front of Grumio as they enter Ascari for the third time. Is Che in control now, looking for win number 2 of the season. Grumio now in second place and falling away slightly here. Not a fantastic run through turns 8, 9 and 10, that little complex there. So Che leads the way now. Second race lead, of course, both cars on the front row. Biggest gainer so far has been Ben Lim, up 4 places and looking for some points for the Racing Bulls team. DJ down 5. Tough start again for the Alpine driver. Che fastest lap once more. Grumio will likely have DRS this time. May see a lead change once again here going towards this first corner. It's going to be very, very tight indeed, but no chance of a move just yet. So Che will maintain the lead for at least a lap or so. And Landlord will have no pressure from Pope behind. He saw Dan trying to make a move on AT. Trying the outside on corner exits. They head to run towards turn number 3. Land with a great run there. Battery to his effect around the outside as well. Takes full advantage back into his starting spot of P5. So Dan looks to try and work on Pope in 4th place now. Good move from the Haas driver around the outside of a corner, which can be tough to pass that, especially if you've got the nerve going towards De La Roja. That's turns 4 and 5. JB still holding to a points paying place. They lost 1 place since the start. Ethan there still holding to that last points paying spot. 10th right on his tail in the Red Bull. Of course, the Red Bull's only chance of points with no Imri in the field. DRS in play again for this time for Grumio, but Che has built enough of an advantage to maintain himself in the lead there. But Grumio has got a full tank of battery. So Grumio is saving a bit more of his battery compared to Che as they make their way towards Parabolic for the 4th time. And DJ, 3-second time penalty there. First penalty of the evening for multiple warnings. Courtney Goblin P15. Currently holding the Alpine at bay, of course, has damage, so perhaps hindering him as well. Grumio making a move here towards turn 1, once again gets close to Che, but doesn't actually go for it just yet. There's a bit of a break in the train here, about 2 seconds separating Websy from Ben here at the minute. So Ben is sort of leading a second line right now. JB with the first call of DRS in that pack. So keep an eye on that battle for the 8th spot. Grumio keeping himself in striking distance of Che. Just sitting just behind him as they go through turns 4 and 5. So the gap then to Landlord in 3rd place. Still in DRS range. Comes to the back inside DRS range, but not enough to actually get close enough for a move. Pope is keeping him under pressure, keeping him honest, keeping him busy as they enter turn 7 once more. And Pope again under no threat from Dan in this DRS train. Of course, you remember Dan at a very frightening instant going down towards that very bridge there at the run towards Ascari after contact with Matthew last season. Last season, Dan was in this very car that collided with him. Rather the other way around, sorry. Dan was hit by the Haas while in the Ferrari. Of course, that Ferrari being driven by Ben in today's race. And Che holding his lead there and holding his nerve out front. Grumio showing no real signs of going for an attack as of just yet. So sort of biding his time, keeping his distance right now, getting as close as he can, perhaps trying to wheel chain to a mistake of some kind as Pope makes the pass on Landlord for that 3rd spot on the run down towards turn 1. So Pope now in 3rd place. Let's see if he has any more luck trying to chase down Grumio for 2nd. And Dan, now he's seen put the job done, want to try and get it done as well as they enter turn 3. AT still P6, still again keeping these guys, keeping with them. And Webbsy on his tail here, so those guys are looking perhaps trying to fight for that 6th spot. Might maybe try and get involved with Dan once again. Of course, AT kept Dan at bay for a lap or 2 at the start. And it's a tough place for you to know when to make an overtake here, Mons, especially for the race lead, especially when you're leading a DRS train, if JB gets hit with that penalty for multiple warnings, because of course, if Grumio is to try and take the lead at Ascari, which Che did, that opens the door then for Che to then come back at him with DRS on the main straight. As DJ gets another penalty there, 2nd of the evening in the first 6 laps. A tough start to things for the Alpine debutant. Of course, made Q3, so pace definitely there for that driver. If he gets a chance to repair that wing, should we get a safety car? So it'll be interesting to see how he fares in that sense. Grumio pulling out a line, not going for the move, not close enough yet. JB and Ericsson both pitting, several cars coming in early on. And with these medium tyres aren't lasting as long as anticipated. Of course, today being the first race since the sport update which came into effect today. As JB heads back out onto the racetrack again, hard tyres on that car. Mediums for both Ericsson and Ben here, so both cars using their opposite compounds. Che still holding Grumio at bay right now. Pope a lot closer to Grumio than Lando is to him. Definite signs of progress from Mercedes driver, of course, also hunting his second win of the season. He, alongside Che, has beaten Grumio on track in this campaign for a victory. And you've seen a few cars sort of try to duck out the back of the car they're chasing, trying to avoid that dirty air. And Lando not really gaining much there. Not compared to Dan behind. Lando almost at DRS range completely from Pope, who's really gotten going in this last lap or so. Can we see him try and go for a move, perhaps for second place as we get lap number 8 of this Grand Prix? The laps are flying by, as they often do in Monza. Often one of the quickest races of the season. And Dan going for it now towards turn 1. Trying to outbrake Lando. Has got the inside line for turn 1, but oh, contact! Or close to contact. Dan spun the car for a split second, locked up way too hard. And Dan will hold on to maintain P5 as 10th Cannon enters the pit. Those medium tyres not holding up as often or as much as they would have done in previous races, or at all, really. So I doubt it'll be too long before we see these guys come in as well. We could be looking at a 2-stop race today, if it can be helped. I imagine this top 10 will likely want to try and go as long as they can for their first stint, try and do what they normally do, run the medium tyres about the first 13 laps, or so then pit onto hards for the second half. But if the tyre wear is this heavy for a number of cars further back, then that could be perhaps a no-go in terms of a potential plan. Of course, tyre wear has been increased in F1 25 to try and encourage these 2-stop races over a number of circuits. It hasn't been as effective thus far. We've had a lot of races that have just sort of run clean and have had no safety car to intervene. We've just seen the one-stop in play. So we haven't seen much of it this season. Of course, there's been instance, and there's been a few tracks where we have seen it come into effect. But Monza looks to perhaps be the most obvious case. Should we see a number of cars coming in? Che and Grumio both staying out. Everyone in that top train continues on as they are. And Grumio now closing a bit more on Che once again. Pope falling away. Lando still has DRS, but might be under a bit more pressure from Dan. And again, Grumio just sort of biding his time. We've seen this sort of fight between Grumio and Che before, as Ethan enters the pit lane now, looking for his first change of tyres. And it's a second set of mediums in play for the Aston Martin. He's away. Nice clean stop for the Green Machines. And JB will likely emerge in front of him. I should imagine we'll see Ethan fall to around P14, P15, come out sort of around this sort of train. May actually come out behind all these guys. Come out close to 10th Cannon, going towards turn 1. Be careful on the brakes there. 10th going for it. But not finding the chance then, so 10th stays in P15. Ben still P16, of course. PJ, tough race. The race was sort of almost over for him before that first corner, but he's still fighting valiantly on. Of course, changed that wing, but has lost a ton of time. Ben W, first penalty leaving us. 3 drivers now with penalties to their names. DJ back in the points. Or does he have his 2 to think about? And Alvar gets 1 too. On to lap 10 now. And Pope is the first car of those race leaders coming to the pit lane now. And we'll see what he changes onto. He's done a solid 9 laps on those mediums. It's around sort of where the softs used to last until second set going on. So Pope looking at a 2-stop then, mediums and then hards. He disappears from view and gets back onto the racetrack again. Che still being chased by Grumio. But of course, Pope pitting has now opened a gap up between Grumio and Lando that will not be covered by DRS. 1.7 seconds between those two. As Che and Grumio clearly cut above the rest here in this first stint. And whether Grumio hasn't perhaps fought him as aggressively as he would do in most cases, where you think back to Zandvoort last week, where it's constant dizzying back and forth between these two and between Dan as well for the race lead. It's a different case this week. Grumio is sort of sitting there biding his time, whether he's not getting enough for run by comparison to as he was last week, where of course the speeds were higher in certain cases. And obviously the wing angle a lot different here. Obviously we can't see it in game annoyingly, but set up somewhat different in terms of the difference between Zandvoort and Monza. But Grumio, regardless of setup, is keeping with the race leader. Both cars coming in. Oh no, for a second I thought both cars coming in. Che pits. Oh, Che! 10-second penalty is spent in the pit lane, and that may well cost him, given how close this race has been so far. That mistake may have thrown this race away. There's still a long way to go. But tough break for Che. Last week's winner. His chance to go back-to-back may have been evaporated there and then. Grumio now leads by 3 seconds to Dan. Managed to get around Landau for second place. Ben, Alvar, all staying out. DJ, Cottony. It's that top 7 yet to pit. Che emerging just in front of Pope, but 10 seconds for Che to think about it. He'll be hoping for a safety car or any opportunity to try and serve that without losing any time. Because I doubt we'll be seeing a 10-second advantage to the lead at any point in this Grand Prix. Pope going for it there on the run towards De La Roja. Pope into 8th place. That'll be a net P2, P3, I should think. His teammate Cottony there in front of him. Does Cottony let him go? Yes, he does. Cottony goes wide. Allows Pope through. Doesn't let Che go. And that might cause some frustration inside the cockpit, of course. Cottony's under no obligation to let Che go. He let Pope through because they're teammates. So clean racing there as Pope makes the move on DJ as well. So Pope is a 6th place then, wasting no time, but that's held Che up. His race has been compounded in about a lap or so here. DJ, of course, yet to pit, so still without damage. Still on those hard tyres, so it can go a bit longer. Ben pitting. Ben Lim in the pit lane. Landau and Dan both coming in. Grumio, though, going as long as he can on these medium tyres. And perhaps this has been the case as Pope now sets fast his lap, goes into 2nd place. Che is hunting him in the race for 2nd. 21.5 seconds between Pope and Grumio. Grumio now obviously on rather worn medium tyres, so I should imagine Pope will gain a fair bit of time. But Grumio's got a lap or two now, the racetrack all to himself, depending on when he pits. And Pope sort of relieved there from an assault from Che on the main straight, thanks to his teammate coming into play for him. Cottony himself onto a fresh set of medium tyres. He's back on the racetrack now. PJ still there in P16. DJ now dead last, having made his stop. Che, though, gutting for him, given how good this race was going for him. Websy there in 7th place, holding off JB and Ethan, as in comes Grumio now pitting. And given he's done 12 laps on mediums, I'm actually going to do 15 on hards just fine. Pope for the last corner. Grumio nearing that pit exit. Fastest lap for both Pope and Che. So both cars are coming. Pope moves into a dominant race lead there. Rather, Pope and Che out by at least a second or so to Grumio as they enter turn 1. Grumio 2.6, 2.7 behind. There we go. That's the state of play then. So Pope now leads the Grand Prix. But will need to stop again because he's had 2 sets of medium tyres. And with that 10-second penalty, that opens it up for Che to lose the lead to Grumio. So Grumio, I think, can still breathe a bit easy for now. Dan 2.3 behind. This train sort of broke up a little bit. What was a lead train in the first stint of the race, now broken up a fair bit. Pope through turn 7. DRS for Che, so both cars may go for a tussle for the lead once again. But the more they fight, the more Grumio will likely close in. Grumio's by himself right now. No help with DRS, just on those fresh, hard tyres. And it's up to these two now to sort of try and work with each other to try and avoid losing too much time to Champion as they head down towards Parabolic again. Ethan passing JB in the race for the 8th spot. Of course, JB with that penalty, 3 seconds for him. Same with Alvar. Ben and DJ both have 6 seconds each, and Che, of course, with 10. Ben Lim in the points right now. 1 point being scored for RB right now. Alvar down in P13, for struggling there. 80 seconds back from 10th in P12. Che now moves into the lead in front of Pope. Grumio's closed a little bit here, but not enough much to really think about for now. Oh, Pope with the circuit. And Pope then finds the runoff. Bit too deep there at turn 1. And now finds himself 1.2 behind Che. Che by himself. Focus now to try and build a lead. Grumio 1.6 behind the car in second place. That is Pope. Dan 2.7 behind him, so no such threat. And 3 points being gained in the minute in the World Championship between Pope and Dan, which take the lead for Grumio to 110. It's been a dominant campaign. 10 wins from 14, can't be argued with. I'd say he's still got a fairly good chance of win number 11 of the season. Still a long way to go though in this race. We're already halfway through. But things have split up a fair bit though. The closest train being this fight for the last few points. Ben now in P8, so that's 4 points going RB's way. So that will then close that lead down to, from Ferrari to RB, just 9 points between 9th and 10th in the standings. Of course, a common fight we see towards the end of the season. So I see the team who avoids placing last as Ericsson comes in now. Well, he's got a chance of points there. Have to wait and see, but it looks like the top 10 are doing pretty solid right now, save for those last few places. Ericsson and then Ericsson's away. He'll fall down to P16 now. And Grumio penalty for multiple warnings. All of a sudden, they think that this race opens up slightly more. And Che would like Grumio to get one or two more of those. At these speeds, it's easy to get track of it more. It's easy to go over that limit a bit. Sometimes Monza can be a real mental game. But Grumio's focus is steely, and he continues to harass Pope in the race to that second spot as they round Parabolica. Che will likely have one eye on his mirrors, thinking what's happening further back behind him. You see what's going on for it now. Grumio chasing Pope and passing Pope towards turn 1. The top two both have penalties, but once Grumio can take the lead from Che, he can try and set sail. And the onus will be on Dan to try and see if he can close up, because Pope needs to pit again, and Che may get past, plus has those 10 seconds. Cannon down the order here, pitting. Hard tires going on to 10th. So 3 cars have made 2 stops in this race. The rest of them have just made 1, and now Pope with the penalty as well. So in a rare set, the top 3 all with time penalties. If Dan can close up, this could open the door for him massively, as he chases his 3rd win of the season. He's got Landlord on his tail still. The second Grumio penalty would open things up massively for those 2 cars. Grumio passes lap. Pope's done 7 laps now on those medium tyres. Will likely be getting close to when he has to stop again. NW penalty there. It's his 3rd of the evening. It's been a tough night for him. Of course, just reserving, so no points on the line for him this evening. Ethan and JB both pitting here. Looks as though Ethan has come out in front of JB here. Well, actually, rather, that's how they were. Both cars down to P12, P13. Cotley gobbling the points paying places now, but I think we'll need to stop again. I doubt those hard tyres, sorry, those medium tyres can go 15 laps. That'd be a big ask. PJ emerges here, still dead last, but a tough night for a number of cars here. Grumio 1.1 behind Che now, closing that gap. And Mayweather will get into DRS range for a chance at Che towards turn 1. Look at how Che sends it into Parabolica. Fantastic to watch. But Grumio giving it all he's got here. Dan in 3rd place. Pope comes in for that stop. And of course, remember, he can't serve that penalty in the pit lane. Track limit penalties are permanent. They stay with you. And Pope will disappear from his box. There he goes. So hard tyres now on. And Pope takes now to charge to the finish line. As Grumio sits right behind Che there in the race for the lead. Didn't get him on the main straight, but may have a chance at him towards Ascari, and from there that could be game, set, and match. Unless Grumio gets a second penalty, which opens up for Dan. And Che's aim for now is try and keep Grumio at bay. Trying to, in the hope he can try and get his teammate closer and closer as Ben's out. Ben retires in the pit lane. Has he retired in the pit lane? I believe he has, yes. Well, there we go. One retiree, but no safety car in this Grand Prix. Again, Che sends it into Parabolica, Grumio on his tail. Dan now 3.4 back. So Che knows, and this is for what he's doing is trying to help his teammate for the race win. And again, Che, with leaving Grumio no room to try and answer. Look to make a move into turn 1. And DJ, third penalty. Currently in P11, with a number of penalties in that mid-pack, may change things in the order. Cotney's still there in P10 right now. Pope makes the passes. Ben now pitting, will likely be his final stop. Medium tyres are on. Alvaro in P8 has that 3 seconds to think about. He's got a good gap to everyone else, to be fair. Could we see a double point score from RB? Ben will rejoin with this train here, with no penalties to his name. And all of a sudden, RB's prospects look fantastic. Courtney Goblin will be vying for the last points placed if he can get them. In terms of the gap here, Dan is now within 3 seconds of Grumio. So these two guys who were in the Ferrari last season and couldn't seal the deal, now running Ferrari engine machines, trying to fight for a win here at Monza. If they can keep Grumio at bay, but Grumio making his move now to the inside towards turn 1. Oh, I thought the glitched inside each other for a second there, but Grumio now moves into the lead in front of Che. 3.4 the gap to Dan now. And Grumio maybe has to just go full steam ahead these last 8 laps. Pope fastest lap. Can Che do anything to try and respond to Grumio? That 10 seconds is looking tough for him. And Landor may once again find himself on the podium as he did last week. ATP 5, Websy in P6, and it's Pope 12 seconds back in P7. Pope likely locked in his position this late on in the race. P7 for him. Alvar is still 10 seconds in front of Ben right now. Ethan holding on to the last point for Aston Martin. So big gains here. We're looking at 6 points right now for RB. Maybe 5, depending on if Ethan can make the pass on Ben. And Grumio fastest lap, and at this point it may just be domination this stage as Che is there with DRS, but that's no real response. Back through turn 1 again, through turn 2. We're in now to the last 7 laps of this race. You can see the top 6 there for a moment on your screen. Websy chasing AT through turn 1, 2. These two have been going at it the entirety of the Grand Prix so far. Pope by himself, and now 11 seconds back from these guys. Has he got enough to try and chase him late on? It'd be a safety car that would make this one interesting, this late on. But would likely kill the chances at points for Che, maybe even Grumio for Pope. I think Dan's last hope is some sort of late race incident that will invoke a safety car, then put him right behind his teammate and his championship rival. And as I say that, Commentator's curse strikes again. Dan, 3-second penalty, and that will be game, set, and match, I should think. And Landlord will now smell blood in the water with a chance to try and take second place in this race away as well. He's 9.5 seconds back from Grumio. His chance to win a shot. There'll be P2 on the road for him as it stands. If he can try and close that extra second on Dan. Right now, it's still P3 because Che is, of course, going to drop 10 seconds as Websy makes the pass on AT. AT pitting. As Ben Lim now gets a 3-second penalty, and that'll make things a bit tougher for him. He may drop that place. Ericsson may have a light chance at points potentially. Can he register his first points of the season? All of a sudden, a story in the midfield here. It's going to take a bit of pushing. We'll see if he can do it. Alvar into P7 now. AT pitting for a set of hard tyres. His final stop. Ben's got Ethan chasing him now. Towards turn 1. It's been a real royal race for a number of these guys. JB P12 there. Majority of cars with penalties here. 6 cars without them. So, Landlord, Websy, AT, and now 5 as Ethan and Ericsson have penalties. So, no, still 5, still 6. Sorry, PJ has gone down there. So I forgot. 10th gets a penalty, second one of the evening for us. PJ makes the pass on DJ. A lot of J's in this league. 5 laps to go then, and it's still Grumio being put under pressure from Che, but Che just not close enough to go for a real challenge. He's got more battery than Grumio does, but we've often seen Grumio charge up late in the race. Haas's only hope right now is to get Che in front of Grumio somehow, and then for Che to back the champion up towards his teammate. But at this stage, he'd need to make a pass for the win. And in that, they may invoke also letting Landlord in to try and take it from under their noses. Ericsson is down to about 4 seconds back from Ben. Needs to gain about another second or so on that RB in order to get himself some points. Or to hope that Ethan in front of him gets a penalty or makes a mistake. But if these two fight each other too much, that'll open the door for the Salvage to try and close that gap in. But Ethan's got no concern if he keeps the car in the white lines, because he'll take P9 regardless here. Alvar is on course for P8 still, because AT is closing the gap to him. AT may well catch him before the end of the race. Che is close. He's close to Grumio this time around. And we saw last time how much time Dan gained when Che was in front of Grumio. DRS will be in play. It's imperative for Haas that Che takes the race lead and can hang on to it. There's 4 laps to go in this thing. And there's still a race win up for grabs. But only if Che can pull in front of Grumio. And it was Dan, of course, who inadvertently did Che a favour last week with a mistake into turn 1 at Zandvoort. Of course, allowed Che to sneak through. Of course, Che had the lead as it is, but Grumio was put on beyond any fighting measures later on thanks to the late collision. And I shouldn't think that Che would want to collide with Grumio and attempt to do the same. But we'll see here, because he's there. He's putting Grumio under constant pressure. If not for that 10-second penalty, we'd have a real race on our hands. And, of course, Che will be in position for P1 without it. So gutting that he's got this pace and he's on the tail of the champion and yet can get past but won't be leading the race technically. Dan is now 3.5 behind, but of course with that penalty he needs to close all the way in. Che just working on keeping Grumio under pressure. But he'll need to get around him. And both cars have full battery now. Dan's got about a third of his left as Che is looking to the inside for a chance. And Dan is there too. He's within 3 seconds of Dan himself. Sorry, Landlord's there too. Sorry, he's within 3 seconds of Daniel Aaron. 3 laps. If Che's going to do it, it's got to be soon. As both cars burn through their battery towards turn 1. Che would need to send it to stand a real chance here. And should they collide and both of them run out of mark, then Landlord may well win the race. That's what he's hoping for. Ericsson penalty there, and that will likely end his chances of that points pay in place. He'll maintain P11. And now just And there's 5 cars now without penalty in this race. Che's running out of time here. And even so, at this stage, I doubt he'll be able to back Grumio all the way up to down like this. He needs to go for it now. He's got a solid run. We had a solid run for a brief moment, but he's not going for it yet. What is Che banking on here? What is Che waiting for? The opportunity's there to try and take Grumio. He's run his tail as they leave Ascari. He's practically bump drafting the Williams on the run down towards Parabolica, and yet cannot find his way around him. What is the plan? Is there a plan at all in play here for Haas? There's 2 laps to go. Is Che looking simply for an on-track win? That's the question. DRS in play, 2 laps to go. Grumio defends the inside. Che going for his first proper move now. Grumio defends underneath, locking up from the champions. Turn 1 who holds Che off. And with just under 2 laps left, that was Che's first opportunity to try and take the lead. The first one he actually went for. It's the closest he's been all afternoon since chasing this second stint. And Grumio shows off the ideal reply there. $18 now has passed Alvar, passed him a few laps ago, I believe. He's up into P7 once again. Pope in P6, likely locked in that spot. I shouldn't think he'll catch Websy this late on. Dan now 2.7 behind. Che is going for it. Will he send it? Nope, keeps himself in line. Is he waiting perhaps until the last lap, then sending him all the way back up again? Dan now 2.4 behind. Of course, he needs to be in with a chance to win this thing. He is Haas's best bet at this stage, but it requires Che to make this pass. Can Che make this pass? Because Grumio will likely burn all his battery in the last lap here. But bell lap, 1 to go in Monza. JV penalty there in P12 at 6 seconds for him. 1 more lap. And Grumio this time has bolted. But Che is closing in towards the first corner. Will send it on the outside, trying it a second time here. Grumio again defends. Masterful response to Che's potential move for the lead. Both cars using battery. Grumio's low on fuel here, so Grumio needs to save. Che practically shoving Grumio on the run towards De La Roja. Goes to the outside now. Contact between the pair of them. Che over the curb. They're side by side as they leave turn 5. Contact between the pair of them. Into the Lesmo. Contact. And Che goes sliding off. Offline. Yellow flag on the back. I think that's Websy's got problems. Websy's around. Puncture for Websy in the final lap. And that's gutting for the Alpine there. Che tried a response. Couldn't make the move. And has lost out. And all 3 cars low on fuel here. Websy is out on the final lap. Puncture there. And costing Alpine points. Gutting feeling for Alpine and for Haas. As Grumio has risen above the pair of them. And is rounding the last corner now for win number 11 of the season. And for the second season running, Grumio wins the Italian Grand Prix. Che home, it will be 3rd place. Dan takes 2nd place on overall. Che in 3rd. Landau finishes a quiet 4th. Pope will fight back to 5th in the end. Well, sorry, Landau finishes 3rd rather. Che 4th, Pope 5th. AT in P6 by himself here. Last corner, Websy. You've got to feel for Websy that late on the race to have a puncture on the final lap. AT in P6, Alvar in P7. So points on the board then for RB for the first time in quite a while. Alvar adds to his points tally. Ethan in 8th, Ben in 9th, and Ericsson. Ericsson will take the last points in the end thanks to Websy's puncture. Ericsson then scores for the first time this season. 1 point for Sauber. JB P11, 10th Cannon, finishes P12 in the end, trying to spin the car over the line. There she goes. Kind of, we'll call that spin. A DJ then, tough debut in the RDLs. He slides the car, leaving Parabolica. He's got PJ right behind him there. These two both had their races over before they really got going. Of course, PJ that contact towards the first corner on lap 1. Courtney Goblin by himself. Of course, Websy will fail to finish. So RB double points. Ericsson gets a point. Fantastic from both those two. Gutting for Haas. They couldn't in the end match Grumio. And Che comes home P4. But of course, it was that injury to the pit lane that cost him in the end as Cotney crossed the line. But Grumio is your winner here in Monza. And overall, a very enjoyable race there, especially towards the end. Things got very entertaining. What looked maybe in a quiet finish, not so much at the end. Of course, Che tried it, but Grumio definitely made the right call in terms of defending that inside lane. Che had no real reply beyond that. And of course, that contact in the final lap, for a second, I was fearing for a moment there'd be some sort of contact between the pair of them, and Dan would go through, or Lando would go through to win the race. So I feared, I'll be honest, I feared the worst. But Grumio, though, comes out on top in front of the Tifosi faithful. So the Haas car still second, but it's Dan in second and Landlord in third. Win number 11 on the season for Grumio and gains another 7 points, 114 points. Now the gap in the World Championship. And Grumio's march towards that 10th RDL Championship could become his way in potentially 5 rounds' time. But overall, a solid race all around. Thoroughly enjoyable for everyone involved, or maybe for most involved. And we'll come now to, as always, we'll come to post-race interviews. It was a very enjoyable Grand Prix, at least from my perspective, come the very end there. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. And we'll see if anyone will be able to join us for a brief chat following that race. Let me know your thoughts down in the chat below. Of course, Grumio adds to his lead in the standings. And we'll keep an eye ahead to see if we do get anyone coming along to see us. Because Websy gutting for him late on with that puncture. And had P5 on the board there, but Pope in the end is here. Pope joins us in the commentary box. Pope, solid stuff overall. It's, of course, they P5 at the flag. Talk me through your race, mate.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. I said I'd get P5. I got P5. Bit annoying, to be honest. I have no idea how they kept their tyres going because all my tyres went up to 75%. So I have no idea how they did that. Obviously, huge commiserations to Websy, who drove a really good race and unfortunate to get the puncture. But yeah, disappointing, but I had really good pace. That is what it is.
I mean, for me, it was very enjoyable where I was sitting. I mean, yeah, I didn't want to ask about the tyre wear because, I mean, it was insanity by comparison to what we're used to at Monza in recent games.
Yeah, no, it was huge, and I've just realised I've just got to quickly check my game clips to see if my warnings were videoed, but it weren't. Yeah, should have got a 3-second penalty, but every time you went off track, it was up by like 2% on the tyres. So very impressed to those who made that one stop work.
Fair enough. Of course, the decision to go for the 2 sets of mediums first. Do you still stand by the decision, or perhaps you should have gone for the hards in the second stint? What was the thinking?
No, there was no chance of me taking those hards the whole way. So I probably did the best I could. Unfortunately, I'm just not as good as the top 4 to keep the tyres in that operating range, and not enough wear for the entire race. There was no chance of me doing that.
Fair enough. In terms of perhaps swapping the tyres around, doing hards first and mediums to the end, was that at all on the table?
No, you always have to start on the mediums on this year's game. I mean, obviously I say that, and I started on the hards last week, but that's quite an anomaly. Normally it's medium hard, no matter where you are. So just stick to what works.
Fair enough. Of course, last question in terms of Friday you're here for next week's race in Baku. Of course, 100% race there around a rather unforgiving street circuit. Are we up for the challenge?
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I drove Baku, so I think I got podium there actually 2 seasons ago. I think I got P3. So
I have to double check the stats on that. I could probably have a look at that while we're sat here, truthfully. But I mean, in terms of the challenge of Baku for a full race distance, is that going to be something that might be a struggle for you?
I don't think it'll be a struggle. I just think it's going to be tiring more than anything. These 100% races have been really good. I think people are seen the tethers with them a little bit, but I did well in the last 100% race and just making sure I can practice over the weekend to make sure I don't bin it in the castle section.
Fair enough. I mean, I've had a look at it. You did need to get a podium, third place behind Grumio and Landlord, so I think that bodes well for tonight, for the next week's race. I mean, I won't be there for it, but obviously good luck to you. Hope that all goes well. And we'll move now to 10th Cannon, who unfortunately comes home outside of the points in overall in a P12. 10th, are we gutted with that, or is that what you do?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know anyone who's happy with a P12 finish. Yeah, it's a bit of a bummer, but I can't exactly say I'm surprised. It's don't think it's one of my best tracks. I don't like Monza. I don't like DRS. I don't like this game, if I'm honest, but it's a damn sight better than 24, so I can't complain too much, I guess.
That I can agree with you on that front. I mean, obviously, as I was Pope, in terms of the tyre wear, was that obviously a struggle for you today as well?
Yeah, I went on the 2-stop because I didn't have enough practice to see if I could make the 1-stop work, and I'm glad I didn't because I don't think I'd have made the 1-stop work. Those mediums just shredded like cheese.
That is one way of putting it. Fair enough. I mean, obviously, in terms of next week's race, Baku, I mean, same thing I was put 100% challenge there. Obviously, a street circuit. I mean, will that be much of a challenge compared to this one?
May God have mercy on our souls. I don't know, to be honest. I haven't driven Baku on this game yet, so I'm going to get some practice before the next race, and I'm going to pray to the Almighty God, because maybe he might hear me. Maybe I might get some points. I don't know, man. It's going to be fun, though. I like Baku, I think.
You think you like Baku?
I don't know. I haven't driven it yet.
Well, fair enough. There's only one way to find out. And for those of you who would like to find out, unfortunately, I am not here next week. So no stream for Azerbaijan, I'm afraid, unless someone is willing to step up and commentate it in my absence. There's someone in the leagues, but I mean, majority will be racing, so I doubt that. So no stream next week, unfortunately. But I'll be back for the round following Azerbaijan, which will be in Singapore on the 29th, which should be a fascinating encounter in itself. But I hope you guys have enjoyed tonight's stream. Make sure, of course, to subscribe for more future audio content. Have a fantastic evening, and I shall see you in 2 weeks' time when audio on the channel returns. Good night.